The mop bucket wheels squeaked softly against the polished concrete floor as Sarah Chen pushed it down the empty corridor of Forward Operating Base Sentinel. At 2 in the morning, the mountain outpost was wrapped in the kind of silence that only came during the dead hours, when most of the personnel were deep in sleep and the night shift kept their vigilant watch from the perimeter towers. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in that familiar sterile glow that had become as much a part of her routine as the weight of the keys jangling from her belt. Sarah moved with the methodical precision of someone who had turned cleaning into an art form. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Every motion served a purpose. Every step followed a pattern perfected over 8 months of working these same halls. She knew which floor tiles had hairline cracks, which doors squeaked on their hinges, and exactly how long it took for the industrial disinfectant to properly set before she could move to the next section. But tonight felt different. There was a tension in the air that she couldn't quite place, something that made her pause occasionally to listen to sounds that weren't quite there. The base commander had always said that Forward Operating Base Sentinel earned its name honestly. Perched on a rocky plateau nearly 7,000 feet above sea level, it served as the eyes and ears for military operations across 3 mountain ranges. The communication arrays that bristled from the main building could intercept signals from hundreds of miles away, and the intelligence gathered here shaped decisions made in rooms far from this remote outpost. Sarah understood the importance of this place better than most. She had once worn the uniform that many of the sleeping soldiers around her still wore with pride. Her military service seemed like another lifetime now. Staff Sergeant Sarah Chen had spent 6 years in Army logistics, coordinating supply chains and managing inventory systems that kept entire battalions operational. She had been good at it too, earning commendations for her attention to detail and her ability to anticipate needs before they became critical shortages. The roadside bomb that shattered her left leg and ended her career hadn't taken away her skills, but it had closed the door on the life she had planned to build. The medical discharge had been clean and professional. Full benefits, glowing recommendations, and a small disability payment that helped with the bills. What it hadn't provided was purpose. For 2 years after leaving the service, Sarah had drifted through civilian jobs that felt hollow and meaningless. Office work that seemed insignificant compared to the life and death logistics of keeping soldiers supplied in hostile territory. Retail positions where the biggest crisis was a customer complaint about a return policy. Nothing that made her feel like she was contributing to something larger than herself. When the contractor position opened up at Forward Operating Base Sentinel, Sarah had applied without hesitation. The pay wasn't spectacular, but it meant returning to the military environment where she understood the rhythms and the culture. More importantly, it meant being useful again. The base needed someone reliable to maintain its facilities during the vulnerable night hours, and Sarah needed to feel like her work mattered. It had been a perfect match. Now, 8 months later, she had become as much a part of the base's infrastructure as the communication towers themselves. The night shift security guards knew her schedule and would nod respectfully when their patrols crossed paths with her cleaning route. The duty officers would sometimes emerge from the command center to grab coffee from the break room she had just restocked, offering quiet words of appreciation for keeping their workspace spotless. Even the day shift personnel had learned to trust that anything they needed would be waiting for them when they arrived, thanks to Sarah's meticulous overnight preparations. What most of them didn't know was how carefully Sarah observed everything around her. Her logistics background had trained her to notice patterns, to spot anomalies, and to think several steps ahead of potential problems. As she moved through the base each night, she wasn't just cleaning. She was conducting an informal security assessment, noting which doors had been left unlocked, which equipment had been left in unusual positions, and which areas showed signs of wear or damage that might require attention. Tonight, those instincts were telling her that something was off. The usual routine felt slightly disrupted, though she couldn't identify exactly what was different. The security patrol had passed through the main corridor 10 minutes earlier than normal. The communications duty officer had emerged from the command center twice in the past hour to check something outside, which was unusual for the typically desk-bound technician. Most telling of all, the ambient noise from the perimeter towers carried a subtle change in tone that suggested the guards were more alert than usual. Sarah finished mopping the corridor and moved toward the maintenance building where she stored her supplies. The building sat near the north perimeter of the base, a utilitarian structure that housed everything from cleaning chemicals to spare parts for the facility's mechanical systems. It was her domain during the night shift, the place where she could work without interrupting anyone else's duties. The building also offered an excellent view of the mountain approaches to the base, something that had become increasingly relevant as regional tensions had escalated over the past few months. As she unlocked the maintenance building door, Sarah's trained eye caught movement in the distance. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. 3 small points of light, barely visible against the dark mountainside, moving in a coordinated pattern that suggested deliberate human activity rather than natural phenomena. She set her cleaning supplies inside the doorway and stepped back. Outside, using the building's shadow to conceal her position while she studied the lights more carefully. The movement pattern was wrong for a routine patrol or a lost hiking party. The lights appeared and disappeared in sequence, following what looked like a tactical approach designed to minimize exposure while maintaining communication between separated elements. Sarah felt her pulse quicken as military training that she hadn't used in years suddenly snapped back into focus. Someone was approaching the base using techniques designed to avoid detection by the perimeter security systems. Her first instinct was to immediately contact the command center, but she forced herself to gather more information before raising an alarm. False alerts were career-ending mistakes in the military, and Sarah's position as a civilian contractor made her even more vulnerable to accusations of overreacting. She needed to be certain of what she was seeing before she risked her credibility on what might turn out to be nothing more than shadows and imagination. Using the maintenance building as cover, Sarah moved to a position that gave her a better angle on the approaching movement. The base's perimeter lighting was designed to illuminate potential approach routes, but it also created blind spots that someone with tactical knowledge could exploit. The lights she had observed were staying carefully within those blind spots, confirming her growing suspicion that this was a coordinated approach by people who understood the base's defensive layout. Sarah pulled out her radio, the same model carried by all base personnel for emergency communications. She switched to the security frequency and prepared to make the call that would either validate her concerns or potentially end her employment. Before she could key the microphone, however, the night erupted in a cacophony of sounds that transformed her suspicions into terrifying reality. The first explosion came from the direction of the main communication array. A bright flash followed by the distinctive crack of high explosives that Sarah recognized from her deployment years. The blast was immediately followed by the sharp reports of small arms fire, the familiar pop and crack of assault rifles engaging targets at medium range. Emergency lighting activated automatically throughout the base, bathing everything in the visy harsh red glow that signaled a condition that no one wanted to experience, but everyone had trained for. Sarah's military instincts took control of her actions before her conscious mind had fully processed what was happening. She dropped into a crouch behind the maintenance building's concrete wall and keyed her radio, with the calm professionalism that had made her an effective logistics coordinator years earlier. Command Center, this is Sarah Chen at the maintenance building. I have visual on coordinated movement from the north perimeter. Multiple hostiles approaching using tactical formation. Explosions and gunfire confirm base is under attack. The response came back immediately, crackling with the tension of a command center suddenly thrust into crisis mode. Sarah, this is Command. Confirm your position and stay in place. Do not attempt to move toward the main complex. Security teams are responding to multiple breach points. As if to emphasize the gravity of the situation, another explosion echoed across the base, this one closer to Sarah's position. The blast illuminated figures moving between the buildings, shadow shapes that moved with the purposeful efficiency of trained combatants. Sarah realized that her location, which had seemed safe and isolated just moments before, now put her directly in the path of whatever force was attempting to penetrate the base's defenses. The maintenance building's concrete construction offered excellent protection from small arms fire, but it was also isolated from the main defensive positions, where the base's security forces would be concentrating their response. Sarah found herself in the military equivalent of no man's land, caught between the attacking force and the base's defensive perimeter. Her radio crackled with urgent communications as the command center attempted to coordinate a response to what was clearly a sophisticated and well-planned assault. The sound of boots on gravel brought Sarah's attention back to her immediate surroundings. Someone was approaching the maintenance building, moving with the careful steps of a person trying to avoid detection while navigating unfamiliar terrain in the dark. Sarah pressed herself against the concrete wall and controlled her breathing, drawing on survival skills that she had hoped never to need again. The footsteps stopped just outside the building's main entrance, close enough that Sarah could hear the subtle sounds of equipment being adjusted and weapons being readied. A voice spoke in accented English, barely audible above the distant sounds of the ongoing firefight. Building appears empty. No activity detected. Proceeding to secondary objective. Sarah remained motionless as the footsteps moved away from her position, but the brief exchange had provided crucial intelligence about the nature of the attack. This wasn't a random assault or a probe of the base's defenses. The attackers had specific objectives and were operating according to a detailed plan that included the systematic neutralization of key facilities. The realization that she was witnessing a coordinated attempt to disable the base's communication capabilities filled Sarah with a cold anger that surprised her with its intensity. Forward Operating Base Sentinel wasn't just her workplace. It was a vital link in the chain of intelligence and communication that protected military personnel across the entire region. The men and women who depended on the information gathered and transmitted from this mountain outpost were the same soldiers she had once served alongside, people who trusted that their support network would function when they needed it most. Sarah's radio crackled with an update from the command center. All personnel, this is command. We are dealing with a coordinated assault on multiple fronts. Primary communication array has been damaged, but is still partially operational. Security teams are engaging hostiles at the main gate and the eastern perimeter. All non-essential personnel are to shelter in place until further notice. The tactical situation was becoming clearer, but it wasn't encouraging. The base's security force, while well-trained and equipped, was designed to handle routine perimeter security and respond to isolated incidents. They weren't prepared for a simultaneous multi-point assault by what appeared to be a professional military unit. The attackers had clearly studied the base's defensive layout and had timed their assault to maximize confusion and minimize the effectiveness of the security response. From her position behind the maintenance building, Sarah could see muzzle flashes from at least 3 different locations around the base perimeter. The attackers were maintaining coordinated fire positions that prevented the security teams from concentrating their forces effectively. It was a textbook example of how a smaller, well-trained force could neutralize a larger defensive unit by controlling the tempo and geography of the engagement. The sound of approaching rotors filled the air, and Sarah felt a moment of hope that reinforcements were arriving to tip the balance of the engagement. The hope was short-lived, however, as the aircraft that appeared over the base was clearly not a friendly rescue force. The helicopter that swept in from the east was painted in non-military colors and showed no identifying markings, but its approach pattern and the way it immediately began providing suppressive fire left no doubt about its allegiance. Sarah watched in growing alarm as the helicopter established a firing position that dominated the main courtyard of the base. Any attempt by the security forces to move between buildings or coordinate a counterattack would now have to contend with aerial observation and fire support. The tactical situation had shifted from difficult to nearly impossible in a matter of minutes. It was at that moment that Sarah heard something that changed everything about her understanding of the night's events. From the direction of the main complex came the distinctive crack of a large caliber rifle, a sound that was immediately followed by the helicopter's engine note, changing from steady operation to obvious distress. The aircraft banked sharply and began losing altitude, its pilot clearly struggling to maintain control after taking what appeared to be a direct hit from a precision weapon. The rifle fired again, and this time Sarah could see the muzzle flash from what appeared to be an elevated position near the command center. Someone with access to serious firepower had joined the engagement, and their intervention was having an immediate impact on the tactical balance. The helicopter managed to execute a controlled crash landing beyond the base perimeter, but its effectiveness as a support platform had been eliminated in 2 well-placed shots. Sarah's radio came alive with communications that painted a clearer picture of the base's defensive response. "Command, this is Overwatch. Aerial threat neutralized. I have visual on multiple hostiles attempting to breach the north perimeter. Requesting permission to engage." The voice belonged to someone Sarah didn't recognize from the base's regular personnel, but the professional tone and tactical language suggested military training at a level above that of the typical security guard. The response from the command center was immediate and decisive. "Overwatch, you are cleared to engage all hostile targets. Priority is protection of the communication facility and prevention of facility breach." The large caliber rifle began firing at regular intervals, each shot accompanied by visible results as hostile positions were systematically eliminated. Sarah realized that she was witnessing the intervention of someone with both the equipment and the skill to conduct precision long-range engagements under combat conditions. The tactical situation was beginning to stabilize, but the outcome was still far from certain. From her concealed position, Sarah could see that several of the attackers had managed to reach the base's interior buildings and were attempting to plant what appeared to be demolition charges on critical infrastructure. The sniper's intervention had disrupted their plan and eliminated their air support, but they were still capable of achieving their primary objective if they could complete their sabotage mission. The base's security forces were engaged in close-quarters combat throughout the facility, but they lacked the positioning and firepower to prevent the attackers from completing their destructive work. It was then that Sarah made a decision that would have seemed impossible just hours earlier. Instead of remaining in her safe hiding position, she began moving toward the sound of the sniper fire. Her knowledge of the base's layout gave her routes that avoided the main areas of combat, and her understanding of tactical principles told her that the sniper position would be the key to preventing the attackers from achieving their objectives. Sarah's movement through the base during a firefight drew on skills she had never expected to use again. Her logistics training had included basic combat movement techniques, but those skills had been theoretical exercises designed to help supply personnel survive if they found themselves in hostile situations. Tonight, those theoretical skills became a matter of life and death as Sarah navigated between buildings while staying clear of the ongoing engagement. The route to the sniper position took her through areas of the base that she knew better than anyone else on the night shift. Service corridors and maintenance tunnels that were invisible to most personnel became her highway through a combat zone. Her intimate knowledge of every door, every stairwell, and every blind corner allowed her to move with confidence even as explosions and gunfire echoed through the buildings around her. As Sarah approached the area where the sniper fire was originating, she began to hear voices that confirmed her growing understanding of the tactical situation. The professional communications and coordinated responses weren't coming from the base's regular security force. Someone with advanced military training had taken charge of the defensive response, and their intervention was the primary reason the base hadn't already fallen to the attackers. The voices became clearer as Sarah reached the final approach to what appeared to be an improvised sniper position on the roof of the administration building. She could hear at least 3 different people coordinating their movements and sharing tactical information with the kind of precision that spoke of extensive combat experience. These weren't base security guards responding to an emergency. These were professional soldiers conducting a defensive operation with the same level of skill that the attackers had demonstrated in their assault. Sarah's final approach to the sniper position required her to climb an external maintenance ladder that she had used countless times during her routine building inspections. Tonight, the familiar rungs carried her toward a situation that would test every skill she had learned during her military service and every lesson she had absorbed during her months of civilian work at the base. As she reached the roof level, Sarah found herself stepping into a world where her 2 very different careers were about to intersect in ways she could never have imagined. The rooftop of the administration building had been transformed into a professional fighting position that would have impressed any military instructor. Sandbags that Sarah recognized from the base's emergency supplies had been arranged to create firing lanes with overlapping fields of view. Communications equipment hummed quietly in one corner, its antenna array carefully positioned to avoid detection while maintaining contact with friendly forces. Most impressive of all was the Barrett M82A1 rifle mounted on a bipod system that allowed for precise adjustment of elevation and windage. Sarah emerged from the maintenance ladder to find herself face to face with 3 men who clearly weren't part of the base's regular security detachment. Their equipment was too advanced, their movements too coordinated, and their tactical setup too sophisticated for anything in the base's standard inventory. The man behind the Barrett rifle looked up from his scope as Sarah appeared, his eyes immediately assessing her as a potential threat before recognizing her base identification badge and civilian contractor status. Commander Jake Martinez had the kind of presence that commanded attention without requiring raised voices or dramatic gestures. His weathered face carried the lines that came from years of squinting into hostile terrain, and his hands moved over the rifle's controls with the unconscious precision of someone who had performed these actions thousands of times under every conceivable condition. When he spoke, his voice carried the calm authority of a leader who had earned his position through competence rather than rank alone. "Ma'am, you need to get back to the shelter areas immediately. This rooftop is about to become very dangerous." Martinez didn't look away from his scope as he spoke, but Sarah could tell that he was tracking her movements and evaluating her response. His tone was respectful but firm, the kind of direction that expected immediate compliance without requiring explanation or justification. Sarah found herself responding with military bearing that she hadn't used since her discharge years earlier. "Sir, I'm Sarah Chen, base maintenance staff. I know every inch of this facility, and I can see positions from here that aren't visible from ground level. Those hostiles have charges planted on the primary communication relay, and they're using the Eastern Service Tunnel to avoid your team's field of fire." The information caused Martinez to pause in his scope adjustments and look directly at Sarah for the first time. His evaluation was thorough and professional, taking in her posture, her tone, and the confidence with which she had delivered tactical intelligence. "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, who had been monitoring radio communications from his position near the antenna array, also turned his attention to Sarah with obvious interest. "You served," Martinez said. It wasn't a question but a statement of recognition. Military bearing was something that never completely faded, and Sarah's response to the tactical situation had immediately identified her as someone with relevant training and experience. "What was your background?" "Army Logistics, 6 years active duty." "Staff Sergeant Chen, discharged after an IED incident, ended my career." Sarah's response was crisp and professional, but she didn't elaborate on the circumstances of her discharge or the personal challenges that had followed. "I've been working nights here for 8 months. I know this base's layout better than anyone currently on duty." Rodriguez spoke up from his communication station, his voice carrying the urgency of someone monitoring multiple radio frequencies simultaneously. "Commander, we've got confirmation of what she's saying. Security teams are reporting movement in the eastern sector that they can't pin down. If there's a service tunnel providing concealment, that explains how they're staying ahead of our response." Martinez made a decision with the kind of speed that separated effective leaders from those who hesitated during critical moments. "Sarah, I need you to guide Rodriguez to a position where he can interdict that tunnel. Stay low, move fast, and get him close enough to stop whatever they're planning." He paused in his instructions to fire another round through the Barrett, the massive rifle's report echoing across the base as another hostile position was eliminated. "Can you handle that?" The question carried weight beyond its simple phrasing. Martinez wasn't just asking if Sarah could navigate the base during a firefight. He was asking if she could function effectively in a combat situation where mistakes would have lethal consequences for herself and others. Sarah's answer came without hesitation, drawing on reserves of confidence that she had thought were gone forever. "Roger that, sir. I can get him there." Sarah's response carried the same professional tone she had used when coordinating supply runs through hostile territory during her active duty service. The familiarity of military communications and tactical decision-making felt natural in a way that surprised her with its intensity. Rodriguez gathered his equipment with efficient movements that spoke of extensive field experience. His communications gear was compact but sophisticated, allowing him to maintain contact with the sniper position while moving independently through the base. The submachine gun slung across his chest was a model that Sarah recognized from her military service, a reliable weapon designed for close-quarters engagements in confined spaces. "Lead the way," Rodriguez said, his tone carrying the professional respect that experienced soldiers showed to anyone who had earned their confidence through demonstrated competence. "And stay close. I'll need you to identify approach routes and potential choke points once we get there." Sarah's route through the base took advantage of maintenance corridors and service areas that weren't included on the standard facility maps. Her months of nighttime cleaning had familiarized her with every door, every stairwell, and every passage that connected the base's various buildings. What had once been routine maintenance access now became tactical advantage as she guided Rodriguez through areas where hostile forces were unlikely to expect resistance. The sounds of combat echoed through the corridors as they moved, but Sarah's knowledge of the base's acoustic properties allowed her to distinguish between nearby threats and distant engagements. The distinctive crack of Martinez's rifle continued at regular intervals, each shot indicating another successful engagement against the attacking force. The tactical balance was shifting, but the outcome remained uncertain as long as the demolition charges remained in place. Rodriguez moved with the fluid precision of someone accustomed to operating in hostile environments. His weapon remained ready but not openly threatening, a professional balance that allowed for immediate response while avoiding the appearance of indiscriminate aggression. His communications equipment crackled periodically with updates from the sniper position, but he maintained radio discipline by keeping his responses brief and informative. "30 meters to the eastern service tunnel entrance," Sarah whispered. As they approached the critical area, the tunnel runs for about 50 meters before it reaches the communication relay building. There are 3 access points where someone could emerge without being visible from the main courtyard. Rodriguez acknowledged the information with a nod and began preparing his equipment for the engagement ahead. His movements were deliberate and methodical, checking weapon systems and communication links with the kind of thoroughness that had kept him alive through multiple deployments. "How much cover does the tunnel provide? Can they see us coming?" "Minimal visibility until the final approach. The tunnel has a bend about halfway through that blocks line of sight from either end. If they're using it for concealment, they won't know we're there until we're close enough to engage." Sarah's assessment was based on countless hours of cleaning and maintaining the service areas, knowledge that was now proving invaluable in a tactical context. The approach to the tunnel entrance required crossing an area that was partially exposed to observation from hostile positions. Rodriguez studied the terrain for several moments, identifying potential cover and calculating the timing required to minimize their exposure. His tactical planning was thorough but efficient, the kind of professional assessment that balanced speed with safety. "We go on my signal," Rodriguez said, his voice carrying the calm authority of someone accustomed to leading others into dangerous situations. "Stay behind me and follow my movements exactly. If shooting starts, find cover and let me handle the engagement." Sarah nodded her understanding, but privately she wondered if Rodriguez's assessment of her capabilities was entirely accurate. Her military service had included combat training, and her logistics background had required her to operate in forward areas where hostile contact was always possible. She wasn't a civilian contractor who needed protection during a firefight. She was a former soldier whose skills had been dormant but not forgotten. The movement to the tunnel entrance went smoothly, with Rodriguez's tactical expertise guiding them through the exposed areas without detection. Sarah's knowledge of the terrain allowed them to use concealment that wouldn't have been obvious to someone unfamiliar with the base's layout. Their combined skills created a synergy that was more effective than either could have achieved alone. Inside the service tunnel, the atmosphere changed dramatically. The sounds of the external firefight became muted and distant, replaced by the kind of acoustic environment that amplified every footstep and every whispered word. Rodriguez switched to hand signals for communication, drawing on a universal military language that Sarah understood despite her logistics background. The tunnel's confined space created tactical challenges that required careful consideration. Movement had to be slow and deliberate to avoid creating noise that would alert potential hostile forces. Lighting had to be minimal to avoid creating silhouettes that could be targeted from either end of the passage. Most importantly, any engagement that occurred in the tunnel would happen at extremely close range with limited options for maneuver or retreat. Rodriguez paused at the tunnel's midpoint bend, using a small mirror to observe the far end without exposing himself to direct observation. His technique was professional and practiced, the kind of fieldcraft that separated trained soldiers from enthusiastic amateurs. After several moments of careful observation, he signaled that the passage ahead was clear, but that activity was visible near the tunnel's exit. Sarah found herself drawn into the tactical problem with an intensity that surprised her. Her logistics training had taught her to think systematically about complex problems, and the current situation was essentially a logistics challenge with lethal consequences. The hostile forces were using the tunnel as a supply route to deliver demolition charges to their target. Interdicting that supply route would disrupt their entire operation and potentially save the communication facility. The sound of footsteps from ahead indicated that Rodriguez's assessment had been accurate. Someone was moving through the tunnel toward their position, probably returning from the communication relay after placing charges or conducting reconnaissance. The confined space that had provided concealment for the approach now created the perfect conditions for an ambush that could eliminate key members of the attacking force. Rodriguez positioned himself for optimal fields of fire while minimizing his exposure to return fire from the tunnel's far end. His weapon selection and ammunition load were perfectly suited for the engagement environment, demonstrating the kind of tactical preparation that came from extensive combat experience. Sarah took position behind him, ready to provide assistance or assume responsibility for communications if the situation required it. The approaching footsteps grew closer, accompanied by the low murmur of voices speaking in a language that Sarah didn't recognize but that clearly indicated coordination between multiple individuals. The hostile forces were operating with the same kind of professional discipline that characterized Rodriguez's approach, suggesting that the base was facing an enemy with significant training and resources. Rodriguez's ambush was swift and decisive. The engagement lasted less than 10 seconds, but those seconds eliminated 2 members of the attacking force and provided crucial intelligence about their equipment and objectives. The demolition charges they had been carrying were sophisticated devices designed to cause maximum damage to communication equipment, confirming that the attack was specifically targeting the base's intelligence-gathering capabilities. "Command, this is Rodriguez." He spoke quietly into his radio while Sarah searched the eliminated hostiles for additional intelligence. Tunnel approach interdicted. Recovered demolition devices confirm primary target is the communication array. Estimate 2 additional charges already in place based on equipment loadout. The response from Martinez was immediate and carried the urgency of someone coordinating multiple aspects of a complex engagement. Copy, Rodriguez. Continue sweep toward the relay building. Sarah's local knowledge has proven invaluable. Use her expertise to identify any additional approach routes they might be exploiting. Sarah felt a surge of professional satisfaction at the recognition of her contribution to the tactical situation. For the first time since her medical discharge, she was using her military skills in a context that truly mattered. The knowledge and experience that had seemed irrelevant during her civilian employment were now proving essential to the defense of a critical military facility. The remainder of the tunnel sweep revealed evidence of extensive hostile activity. Equipment caches, communication devices, and reconnaissance materials indicated that the attacking force had been planning this operation for an extended period. Their intelligence about the base's layout and defensive capabilities was thorough and accurate, suggesting either inside information or extensive surveillance prior to the assault. Rodriguez's assessment of the intelligence they had gathered was sobering. This wasn't an opportunistic attack. They knew exactly what they were targeting and how to get there. Someone provided them with detailed information about our defensive setup and operational procedures. Sarah's response drew on her logistics experience and her intimate knowledge of the base's daily operations. The timing wasn't random either. They hit us during the night shift when personnel levels are minimal and response capabilities are reduced. They knew our duty schedules and shift rotations. The implications of coordinated intelligence gathering added a new dimension to the tactical situation. The attacking force wasn't just well-trained and well-equipped. They had insider knowledge that allowed them to exploit specific vulnerabilities in the base's defensive posture. This realization meant that the threat extended beyond the immediate combat engagement to questions of security and operational integrity that would have lasting consequences. Rodriguez keyed his radio for another update to the command position. "Martinez, we've got indicators of extensive pre-attack intelligence gathering." They knew our duty schedules, defensive positions, and facility layout in detail. This was a planned operation with inside information. The response carried the weight of someone processing new information while simultaneously managing an ongoing firefight. Understood. Complete your sweep and return to overwatch position. We'll address security concerns after we finish dealing with the immediate threat. Part 3. The approach to the communication relay building revealed the full scope of the hostile force's objectives. Sarah's expertise in facility maintenance allowed her to immediately identify modifications that had been made to the building's external systems. Antenna arrays had been deliberately damaged in ways that would disrupt specific communication frequencies, while leaving others operational. Power systems had been sabotaged with precision that indicated detailed knowledge of the facility's electrical infrastructure. Rodriguez's tactical assessment was equally thorough and considerably more alarming. They're not trying to destroy the facility completely. They're selectively disabling capabilities while preserving others. This looks like preparation for exploitation rather than simple destruction. Sarah understood the implications immediately. Her logistics background had included training on infrastructure protection and the methods used to compromise military communication systems. They want to use our equipment for their own purposes. If they can control our communication arrays, they can intercept intelligence and potentially redirect operations across the entire region. The realization that the base was facing an attempt at infrastructure capture rather than simple destruction changed the tactical priorities completely. Simply repelling the attacking force wouldn't be sufficient if they had already compromised critical systems. The defensive response would need to include technical assessment and restoration of compromised equipment, tasks that required specialized knowledge that wasn't available from the base's regular security personnel. Rodriguez's radio crackled, with an update from Martinez that confirmed their growing understanding of the situation. All teams, be advised that hostile objectives appear to include infrastructure capture and exploitation. Priority is now prevention of technical compromise in addition to base defense. Sarah's response was immediate and confident. Sir, I can identify what they've modified and guide technical restoration. My maintenance background includes all the systems they're targeting. Her offer wasn't based on false confidence or misplaced heroism. She genuinely possessed the technical knowledge required to assess and restore the compromised equipment. The sound of approaching vehicles from outside the base perimeter added a new dimension to the tactical situation. Rodriguez used his optical equipment to identify several SUVs approaching at high speed from multiple directions. The vehicles showed no identifying markings and were approaching using routes that avoided the base's main security checkpoints. Command, this is Rodriguez. Multiple vehicles approaching from the east and south. Estimate 12 to 15 additional hostiles inbound. Current situation is about to become significantly more complex. Martinez's response carried the calm determination of someone who had faced overwhelming odds before and understood how to maintain operational effectiveness despite numerical disadvantage. Copy. Sarah's knowledge of defensive positions is now critical. Get her back to Overwatch position immediately. We're going to need every advantage we can create. The return route to the sniper position required crossing areas that were now under direct observation from hostile forces positioned throughout the base. Sarah's knowledge of concealed routes and blind spots became essential for movement that avoided detection while maintaining tactical flexibility. Rodriguez's combat experience provided the tactical framework, but Sarah's facility expertise made the movement possible. During their movement back to the administration building, Sarah observed damage patterns that revealed additional information about the attacking force's capabilities and objectives. The sabotage was surgical and precise, targeting specific systems while avoiding collateral damage that would interfere with their exploitation objectives. This level of technical sophistication suggested military or intelligence backgrounds, rather than simple criminal or terrorist motivations. Rodriguez's assessment matched Sarah's observations. These aren't random attacks or attempts at general destruction. Everything they've done serves a specific operational purpose. They're planning to use this facility as a base for extended operations. The implications were staggering. Forward Operating Base Sentinel's communication capabilities provided Intelligence coverage for military operations across 3 mountain ranges. If hostile forces could capture and exploit those capabilities, they would gain access to operational intelligence that could compromise missions and endanger personnel. Throughout the region, Sarah's professional response drew on her logistics experience and her understanding of intelligence operations. The damage pattern suggests they need about 2 hours to complete their technical modifications. If we can disrupt their timeline, or force them to abandon the exploitation attempt, we can preserve operational security. Rodriguez keyed his radio for another update to Martinez. Command, Sarah's assessment indicates a 2-hour window for hostile technical exploitation. Recommend prioritizing disruption of their technical operations over simple base defense. The response from Martinez indicated that he was already adapting his tactical approach based on the new intelligence. Copy. Returning to Overwatch position is now priority 1. Sarah's technical expertise is going to be essential for identifying and countering their exploitation attempts. The final approach to the administration building required navigation through areas that were now contested territory. Hostile forces had established positions throughout the base, but their focus on technical objectives had created opportunities for movement that Rodriguez's tactical expertise could exploit. Sarah's knowledge of the building's internal layout provided routes that avoided the main corridors where hostile forces were likely to be positioned. Inside the administration building, the sound of Martinez's rifle continued at regular intervals, each shot representing another successful engagement against the attacking force. The consistency of his fire indicated that he was systematically eliminating targets while maintaining Overwatch responsibility for the entire defensive operation. His tactical discipline was impressive, but the numerical odds were becoming increasingly challenging. The climb to the rooftop position required passing through areas where the building's structure had been damaged by explosive charges. Sarah's maintenance experience allowed her to assess the structural integrity and identify safe routes through sections that might appear compromised to someone without technical knowledge. Rodriguez's tactical movements complemented her technical assessment, creating a partnership that was more effective than either could achieve independently. Martinez's greeting upon their return to the sniper position was brief but carried genuine appreciation for their success in interdicting the tunnel approach. Good work. The intelligence you gathered confirms that we're dealing with a sophisticated operation. Sarah, I need your assessment of their technical modifications and recommendations for countermeasures. Sarah's response drew on months of maintaining the exact systems that were now under attack. They've modified the primary antenna array to redirect signals through equipment they've installed in the relay building. The modifications are sophisticated, but reversible if we can access the equipment. The bigger problem is that they've demonstrated detailed knowledge of our communication protocols and encryption systems. Rodriguez added his tactical assessment to Sarah's technical analysis. The approaching vehicles are positioning for extended operations rather than extraction. They're planning to hold the facility and use it for ongoing intelligence operations. Martinez absorbed the information while continuing to engage targets through his scope. The Barrett rifle's precision and range were keeping hostile forces from establishing effective positions around the command center, but the arrival of additional personnel would eventually overwhelm his ability to provide comprehensive Overwatch coverage. Sarah, I need you to identify positions where additional snipers could provide overlapping fields of fire. Your knowledge of the facility's layout and sight lines is now our primary tactical advantage. Martinez's request recognized that Sarah's contributions had evolved from simple intelligence gathering to active participation in defensive planning. Sarah's assessment of potential sniper positions drew on her understanding of the base's architecture and her observations of the hostile forces' movement patterns. The water tower provides elevation and cover for engagement of the eastern approaches. The maintenance shed roof offers concealment and firing lanes toward the communication building. Both positions would require technical modifications to create stable firing platforms. Rodriguez's evaluation of Sarah's recommendations was immediate and positive. Both positions are tactically sound and would provide significant enhancement to our defensive capabilities. The question is whether we have personnel and equipment to establish those positions. Martinez made another decision with the kind of speed that had characterized his leadership throughout the engagement. Sarah, your technical knowledge and facility expertise make you the logical choice for establishing the water tower position. Rodriguez will provide the tactical framework, but you'll need to handle the technical modifications required to create an effective firing platform. The assignment represented a level of trust and responsibility that Sarah hadn't experienced since her active duty service. Martinez was essentially making her a member of his tactical team, relying on her expertise for critical aspects of the defensive operation. The recognition was professionally gratifying, but it also carried the weight of responsibility for outcomes that would affect the safety and security of personnel throughout the region. Sarah's acceptance of the assignment was immediate and confident. Understood, sir. I can modify the water tower platform to provide stable positioning for precision engagements. What weapons and optical systems will be available? Martinez's response revealed the extent of his confidence in Sarah's capabilities. You'll have access to the same Barrett system I'm using here. Rodriguez will establish communications and provide tactical coordination. Your job is to create the technical infrastructure required for effective long-range engagement. The implications of the assignment were significant beyond the immediate tactical situation. Martinez was essentially recognizing Sarah as a qualified sniper capable of conducting precision engagements under combat conditions. The recognition was based on her demonstrated competence during the night's events, but it also suggested that her military background included skills that she hadn't fully revealed during their earlier conversations. Rodriguez's preparation for the movement to the water tower position was thorough and professional. His equipment selection included not only weapons and communications gear, but also technical tools that would be required for modifying the tower's structure to create an effective firing platform. His confidence in Sarah's abilities was evident in his willingness to depend on her expertise for critical aspects of the mission. Sarah's own preparation drew on both her military experience and her civilian maintenance skills. The tools and materials required for modifying the water tower were familiar to her from routine facility maintenance, but their application to create a sniper position would require creative problem-solving under combat conditions. The challenge was technically demanding, but well within her capabilities. The movement to the water tower required crossing the most exposed area of the base, but Sarah's knowledge of concealment opportunities and Rodriguez's tactical expertise created a route that minimized their exposure to hostile observation. The success of their movement depended on timing that took advantage of Martinez's suppressive fire and the hostile forces' focus on their technical objectives. Part 4. The water tower's elevated position provided a commanding view of the entire base complex, but the platform's original design required significant modification to serve as a stable firing position. Sarah's maintenance experience allowed her to identify structural elements that could support the weight and recoil forces generated by the Barrett rifle system, while Rodriguez's tactical knowledge guided the positioning for optimal fields of fire. The technical modifications required to create an effective sniper position were more complex than simply providing a stable platform. The tower's metal construction created acoustic properties that would amplify the rifle's muzzle blast and potentially reveal their position to hostile forces. Sarah's solution involved using maintenance materials to create sound dampening that would reduce the acoustic signature while maintaining structural stability. Rodriguez's communication setup established reliable contact with Martinez's overwatch position and the base command center. The tactical coordination between the two sniper positions would allow for overlapping coverage of approaches that no single position could effectively monitor. Sarah's technical modifications had created capabilities that significantly enhanced the defensive response to the ongoing assault. The Barrett rifle system that Rodriguez positioned on Sarah's modified platform was identical to the weapon Martinez was using from the administration building, but its elevated position from the water tower created different engagement opportunities. Sarah's familiarity with precision shooting from her military service allowed her to quickly adapt to the weapon's characteristics and ballistic properties. Rodriguez's tactical briefing was thorough but concise, covering engagement priorities and coordination procedures with the efficiency of someone accustomed to operating under time pressure. Martinez will continue engaging targets around the command center and communication building. Your priority is the eastern approaches where the additional vehicles are positioning. Engagement distance will be 400 to 600 meters, well, within the Barrett's optimal range. Sarah's response reflected confidence that was based on genuine competence rather than false bravado. Roger, ballistics for those ranges are straightforward, and the elevation advantage provides clear sight lines. I can interdict any attempt to establish positions in the eastern sector. The first target that appeared in Sarah's scope was a figure attempting to establish a heavy weapons position near the base's eastern gate. The individual's movements indicated extensive military training, but their focus on equipment setup created a period of stationary positioning that made them vulnerable to precision engagement. Sarah's first shot with the Barrett system was a clean hit that eliminated the threat and disrupted the hostile force's attempt to establish suppressive fire capabilities. Rodriguez's immediate feedback confirmed the effectiveness of the engagement and provided tactical context for subsequent target selection. Excellent shot. That was their crew-served weapon position. Priority now shifts to personnel attempting to breach the perimeter fence along the eastern approach. Sarah's subsequent engagements demonstrated the tactical advantage created by her elevated position and technical modifications to the platform. The Barrett's precision and range allowed her to eliminate targets at distances where return fire was ineffective, creating a zone of control that prevented hostile forces from establishing effective positions in the eastern sector. The coordination between Sarah's position and Martinez's overwatch created overlapping fields of fire that covered all approaches to the critical communication facilities. Hostile forces found themselves unable to establish positions that weren't subject to precision engagement from one of the two sniper positions. The tactical situation had shifted from desperate defense to controlled interdiction of hostile operations. Rodriguez's radio communications provided real-time updates on the tactical situation throughout the base. Command reports that the technical exploitation attempt has been disrupted. Sarah's interdiction of the eastern approaches prevented establishment of security positions that were required for their extended operations. Sarah's professional satisfaction at contributing to mission success was tempered by her understanding that the engagement was far from over. The hostile forces had demonstrated sophisticated planning and extensive resources. Their failure to achieve immediate objectives didn't necessarily mean they would abandon their attempt to capture the facility's intelligence capabilities. Martinez's voice came through the radio with an update that confirmed Sarah's assessment. Both sniper positions maintain overwatch. Hostile forces are regrouping for what appears to be a coordinated assault on the command center. Sarah, your position will be critical for interdicting their approach from the east. The tactical challenge of a coordinated assault required different engagement techniques than the individual target elimination that had characterized the earlier phases of the engagement. Sarah's position would need to provide suppressive fire that disrupted the assault's timing and coordination, while Martinez focused on eliminating key personnel and equipment. Rodriguez's tactical guidance adapted to the changing requirements with professional flexibility. Shift to rapid engagement techniques. Priority is disruption of their coordination rather than individual elimination. Use the Barrett's psychological impact to create hesitation and break up their assault timing. Sarah's response to the new tactical requirements demonstrated the adaptability that had made her effective during her active duty logistics assignments. Understood. Switching to suppression mode with precision targeting of leadership elements when identifiable. The coordinated assault began with suppressive fire from multiple positions, designed to prevent effective response from the sniper positions. The hostile forces had learned from their earlier failures and were now attempting to overwhelm the defensive response through concentrated firepower rather than tactical finesse. Sarah's elevated position allowed her to identify and engage the assault's command elements despite the suppressive fire directed at her position. The Barrett's range and precision created opportunities for disrupting the assault's coordination by eliminating key personnel at distances where the hostile forces couldn't effectively return fire. Rodriguez's tactical coordination ensured that Sarah's engagements complemented Martinez's simultaneous efforts rather than creating conflicts in target priority or timing. The two sniper positions operated as a coordinated system that created overlapping zones of control covering all approaches to the critical facilities. The hostile forces' assault reached its peak intensity as they committed their remaining personnel and resources to a final attempt at capturing the communication facilities. The engagement became a test of endurance and ammunition conservation as much as tactical skill, with both sniper positions maintaining continuous fire against multiple targets approaching from different directions. Sarah's performance during the sustained engagement drew on reserves of concentration and physical endurance that she hadn't tested since her active duty service. The Barrett's recoil and the precision required for effective long-range engagement created physical demands that were compounded by the stress of combat conditions and the tactical responsibility for preventing hostile forces from achieving their objectives. Rodriguez's support during the peak intensity phases of the engagement was professional and effective. His ammunition management, target identification assistance, and tactical coordination allowed Sarah to maintain effective fire without becoming overwhelmed by the multiple demands of operating in a combat environment. The turning point in the engagement came when Sarah's precision fire eliminated the hostile forces' command element during their final assault on the communication building. The loss of tactical leadership created confusion and hesitation that allowed Martinez to systematically eliminate the remaining assault personnel with methodical precision. Rodriguez's assessment of the tactical situation confirmed that the immediate threat had been neutralized. Command reports all hostile personnel in the communication facility area have been eliminated or withdrawn. The technical exploitation attempt has been completely disrupted. Sarah's radio acknowledgement carried the quiet satisfaction of someone who had performed effectively under extreme pressure. Copy. Maintaining overwatch position pending confirmation that all threats have been neutralized. Martinez's voice carried genuine appreciation for Sarah's contribution to the successful defense of the facility. Outstanding performance, Sarah. Your technical expertise and tactical execution were essential to mission success. The facility's intelligence capabilities have been preserved. Part 5. The immediate aftermath of combat carried a strange mixture of relief and continued vigilance that Sarah remembered from her deployment years. The hostile forces had been neutralized or withdrawn, but the possibility of additional threats or follow-up attacks required maintained alertness until a thorough security sweep could confirm that the base was truly secure. Rodriguez's systematic inspection of their equipment and position reflected the kind of professional attention to detail that separated experienced operators from enthusiastic amateurs. His assessment of ammunition expenditure, equipment condition, and tactical lessons learned would contribute to after-action reports that might influence Defensive procedures for similar facilities throughout the region. Sarah's own post-engagement assessment focused on the technical modifications she had made to create the sniper position and their effectiveness under combat conditions. The structural changes had performed well, but her engineering background suggested improvements that could enhance the position's effectiveness for future defensive operations. The radio traffic from the base command center indicated that security sweeps were underway throughout the facility, but the comprehensive nature of those sweeps would require several hours to complete. Sarah and Rodriguez would maintain their overwatch position until the tactical situation was officially declared secure by competent authority. Martinez's movement from his position on the administration building to coordinate the base-wide security response left Sarah and Rodriguez as the primary overwatch capability for the facility. The responsibility was significant, but Sarah's performance during the engagement had demonstrated that she possessed the technical competence and tactical judgment required for the assignment. Rodriguez's confidence in Sarah's capabilities was evident in his willingness to delegate significant portions of the overwatch responsibility to her independent judgment. You've earned your place on this team tonight. Your facility knowledge and tactical execution saved this base and probably prevented compromise of intelligence operations throughout the region. Sarah's response reflected the quiet professionalism that had characterized her performance throughout the engagement. Just doing what needed to be done with the skills I had available. The situation required technical expertise and tactical execution, and I happened to have both. The systematic security sweep of the base revealed the full extent of the hostile forces' technical modifications and intelligence gathering efforts. The sophisticated nature of their equipment and the detailed knowledge they had demonstrated of the facility's operations confirmed that this had been a carefully planned operation with significant resources and inside information. Rodriguez's analysis of the captured equipment and intelligence materials provided insights into the hostile forces' capabilities and objectives that would influence security procedures for similar facilities. Their technical sophistication and operational intelligence suggest state-level resources or extensive criminal organization capabilities. This wasn't a random attack or opportunistic exploitation. Sarah's examination of the technical modifications that had been made to the communication equipment revealed attempts at exploitation that were far more sophisticated than simple signal interception. They were installing equipment that would have allowed them to inject false information into our communication streams while simultaneously intercepting genuine intelligence. The potential for operational deception was enormous. The implications of the attempted intelligence operation extended far beyond the immediate tactical situation at Forward Operating Base Sentinel. The facility's communication capabilities supported operations throughout a region where accurate intelligence was essential for personnel safety and mission success. Compromise of those capabilities could have had consequences that extended across multiple theaters of operation. Martinez's return to the water tower position brought official confirmation that the base was secure and that the immediate threat had been completely neutralized. His assessment of Sarah's performance was professional and thorough, recognizing both her technical contributions and her tactical execution under combat conditions. Sarah, your performance tonight was exceptional by any standard. Your facility knowledge, technical expertise, and tactical execution were all critical to mission success. Martinez paused in his assessment to ensure that his words carried appropriate weight. I'm recommending you for recognition that reflects the significance of your contribution to base defense and intelligence security. Sarah's response maintained the quiet professionalism that had characterized her approach throughout the engagement. Thank you, sir. I'm glad I could contribute effectively to the mission. The facility and its personnel deserve the best defense we could provide. Rodriguez's addition to Martinez's assessment reflected his first-hand observation of Sarah's performance during the most critical phases of the engagement. Her adaptability and competence under pressure were outstanding. She performed like someone with extensive combat experience, not like a civilian contractor pressed into emergency service. The recognition from experienced military professionals carried weight that Sarah hadn't experienced since her active duty service. For the first time since her medical discharge, she felt that her military skills and experience were being valued at their true worth rather than being dismissed as irrelevant to civilian employment. Martinez's final assessment included recommendations that would have lasting impact on Sarah's career prospects and professional recognition. I'm recommending Sarah for consideration for positions that would make better use of her technical and tactical capabilities. Her performance tonight demonstrates qualifications that are being wasted in her current assignment. The dawn that broke over Forward Operating Base Sentinel revealed a facility that had been tested by sophisticated assault and had emerged with its critical capabilities intact. The communication arrays continued their vital intelligence gathering mission, and the personnel who depended on that intelligence throughout the region could continue their operations with confidence in their support systems. Sarah's view from the water tower position provided a comprehensive perspective on the base that had become her professional home and the scene of her return to meaningful military service. The facility's buildings and equipment showed evidence of the night's combat, but the damage was superficial compared to what could have been lost if the hostile forces had achieved their objectives. Rodriguez's preparation for descent from the water tower included careful attention to the technical modifications that Sarah had made to create their firing position. These modifications should be documented and considered for permanent installation. The tactical advantage they provided was significant, and future defensive operations might benefit from similar capabilities. Sarah's response reflected her continuing professional interest in facility improvement and defensive enhancement. I can prepare technical specifications and installation procedures that would allow rapid conversion of similar positions at other facilities. The techniques aren't complex, but they require understanding of structural principles and ballistic requirements. Martinez's coordination of the base's return to normal operations included recognition ceremonies and administrative procedures that would document the night's events for official records. Sarah's role in those procedures would establish her contribution to base defense and potentially influence future career opportunities within the military contractor community. The administrative processing of the night's events required detailed statements and technical assessments that would contribute to lessons learned and procedural improvements for similar facilities. Sarah's unique perspective as both a facility expert and a combat participant provided insights that would be valuable for defensive planning at installations throughout the region. Rodriguez's departure from the base would return him to operational assignments that Sarah could only imagine, but his professional respect for her capabilities was evident in his final assessment. You've proven that civilian expertise and military capability can combine to create exceptional defensive advantages. Don't let anyone convince you that your contributions weren't essential to mission success. Martinez's final words to Sarah carried both professional recognition and personal encouragement that acknowledged the significance of her return to meaningful military service. Tonight you proved that a person's current job title doesn't define their potential contribution when circumstances require excellence. You've earned your place among the professionals who keep critical facilities secure. Sarah's descent from the water tower carried her back toward ground level with a different perspective than she had possessed just hours earlier. The same maintenance ladders and service platforms that she had climbed countless times during routine facility inspections now represented the infrastructure of a successful defensive operation. Every bolt and bracket had contributed to creating a firing position that had proven decisive in protecting the base's critical communication capabilities. The early morning air carried the distinctive smell of cordite and disturbed earth that Sarah remembered from her deployment years. Combat left its signature on everything it touched, from the spent brass casings scattered around firing positions to the subtle changes in how people moved and spoke in its aftermath. The base's personnel who emerged from their sheltered positions carried themselves with the heightened awareness that came from surviving a genuine threat to their safety and mission. Martinez had established a temporary command post in the base's main conference room, where the systematic process of documenting the night's events and assessing their implications was already underway. Sarah's participation in those proceedings would be essential, not only because of her role in the defensive response, but also because of her unique knowledge of the facility's systems and the technical modifications that the hostile forces had attempted to implement. The conference room's atmosphere reflected the professional demeanor of experienced military personnel conducting a thorough after-action assessment. Maps and diagrams covered the walls, marked with positions and movement patterns that told the story of the engagement from multiple perspectives. Communication equipment hummed quietly in one corner, maintaining contact with higher headquarters and coordinating the arrival of technical specialists who would conduct detailed analysis of the captured equipment and intelligence materials. Commander Martinez's briefing to the assembled personnel was comprehensive and methodical, covering every aspect of the engagement from initial detection through final security sweep. His presentation style reflected years of experience in distilling complex tactical situations into clear assessments that could guide future planning and decision-making. Sarah found herself mentioned repeatedly as a key contributor whose facility, knowledge and tactical execution had been essential to mission success. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez's technical assessment of the captured equipment revealed the sophisticated nature of the attempted intelligence operation. The devices that had been installed in the communication facility were far more advanced than simple interception equipment. They represented a comprehensive attempt to compromise the facility's intelligence gathering capabilities, while simultaneously using those capabilities to support hostile operations throughout the region. Sarah's examination of the technical modifications provided insights that complemented Rodriguez's tactical analysis. Her understanding of the facility's original systems allowed her to identify exactly what had been changed and how those changes would have affected operational capabilities. The precision of the modifications indicated detailed knowledge of the facility's technical specifications and operational procedures. The modifications were designed to be virtually undetectable. During routine system checks, Sarah explained to the assembled group, they would have allowed the hostile forces to monitor all communications while selectively altering information being transmitted to higher headquarters. The potential for operational deception was enormous. Martinez's response reflected his understanding of the broader implications of Sarah's technical assessment. The level of sophistication and detailed knowledge demonstrated by these modifications suggests extensive preparation and possibly inside information. We're dealing with an adversary that has significant technical capabilities and detailed intelligence. About our operations, the discussion of security implications led to questions about how the hostile forces had acquired such detailed knowledge of the facility's layout, defensive procedures, and technical systems. Sarah's months of working night shifts had given her observations about personnel routines and facility access that might be relevant to understanding potential security vulnerabilities. Rodriguez's analysis of the timeline and coordination demonstrated during the assault suggested military-level training and extensive rehearsal. Their movement patterns, communication discipline, and tactical coordination were consistent with professional military units rather than criminal organizations or terrorist groups. Someone with significant resources invested considerable time and effort in planning this operation. Sarah's perspective on the facility's daily operations provided additional context for understanding how detailed intelligence might have been gathered. The base's routine operations create patterns that could be observed and analyzed over extended periods. Personnel schedules, supply deliveries, communication procedures, and maintenance activities all follow predictable patterns that could be exploited by someone with patience and systematic observation capabilities. Martinez's coordination of the investigation into potential security compromises would involve personnel from multiple agencies and require detailed examination of access records, communication logs, and operational procedures. Sarah's role in that investigation would be significant because of her unique position as someone who had observed facility operations from both military and pro-steer civilian perspectives. The arrival of technical specialists from higher headquarters brought additional expertise for analyzing the captured equipment and assessing the full scope of the attempted intelligence operation. Sarah's detailed knowledge of the facility systems made her an invaluable resource for guiding their technical analysis and helping them understand exactly what had been compromised and what remained secure. Colonel Patricia Williams, the senior investigating officer, conducted her initial briefing with the kind of thoroughness that reflected the serious implications of the night's events. Her questions for Sarah were detailed and probing, designed to extract every piece of relevant information about the facility's operations and the technical modifications that had been discovered. Ms. Chen, your unique position as both a former military logistics specialist and a civilian facility maintenance worker gives you insights that are unavailable from any other source. Colonel Williams explained. Your observations about facility routines, personnel patterns, and system vulnerabilities will be essential for understanding how this operation was planned and executed. Sarah's responses to Colonel Williams' questions drew on months of detailed observation and her professional understanding of both military operations and facility management. Her answers provided a comprehensive picture of the base's daily routines and the various ways that systematic observation could have provided the intelligence necessary for planning such a sophisticated assault. Rodriguez's participation in the investigation focused on the tactical aspects of the assault and the coordination techniques used by the hostile forces. His analysis suggested that the attacking force had included personnel with advanced military training and possibly special operations experience. The level of tactical sophistication demonstrated during the engagement was consistent with state-sponsored operations rather than criminal or terrorist activities. Martinez's assessment of the defensive response highlighted the critical role that Sarah's facility knowledge and technical expertise had played in defeating the assault. Without her detailed understanding of the base's layout and systems, the defensive response would have been significantly less effective and the outcome might have been very different. Sarah's contribution went far beyond providing local knowledge. Martinez explained to Colonel Williams. Her ability to adapt her technical expertise to tactical requirements and her competence under combat conditions were essential elements of our defensive success. She performed like an experienced military operator rather than a civilian contractor. Colonel Williams' evaluation of Sarah's performance included questions about her military background and the circumstances of her transition to civilian employment. The investigation needed to understand not only what had happened during the engagement, but also how someone with Sarah's capabilities had ended up in a position where those capabilities weren't being fully utilized. Sarah's explanation of her medical discharge and subsequent civilian employment provided context for understanding how valuable military skills and experience could be underutilized in the contractor system. Her case illustrated broader issues about how former military personnel were integrated into civilian support roles and whether their full capabilities were being effectively employed. Rodriguez's recommendation that Sarah be considered for positions that would make better use of her technical and tactical capabilities carried significant weight coming from an experienced special operations professional. His assessment was based on first-hand observation of her performance under extreme pressure and his professional judgment about her potential contributions to military operations. Martinez's formal recommendation for Sarah's recognition included specific details about her contributions to base defense and intelligence security. His documentation would become part of the official record of the engagement and would support any future decisions about Sarah's career opportunities within the military contractor community. The technical analysis of the captured equipment revealed attempted modifications that would have compromised intelligence operations across multiple facilities throughout the region. Sarah's expertise in identifying and understanding those modifications provided crucial information for assessing the full scope of the threat and developing countermeasures for other installations. Colonel Williams' preliminary assessment of the investigation's findings suggested that the assault on Forward Operating Base Sentinel was part of a broader intelligence operation targeting multiple facilities with similar communication capabilities. Sarah's role in defeating the attempt at her facility had potentially prevented similar attacks at other installations throughout the region. The implications of a coordinated intelligence operation targeting multiple military facilities created security concerns that extended far beyond the immediate tactical situation at Forward Operating Base Sentinel. Sarah's insights into facility vulnerabilities and defensive capabilities would be valuable for developing improved security procedures for similar installations. Rodriguez's analysis of the tactical lessons learned from the engagement included recommendations for enhanced defensive capabilities and improved coordination between facility personnel and security forces. Sarah's demonstrated ability to contribute effectively to defensive operations suggested that civilian contractors with military backgrounds represented an underutilized resource for facility security. Martinez's assessment of personnel performance during the engagement highlighted the importance of recognizing and utilizing the full capabilities of all personnel regardless of their current job classifications. Sarah's example demonstrated that valuable military skills and experience might be present in unexpected places and that emergency situations could reveal capabilities that weren't being effectively employed during routine operations. The documentation process for the night's events required detailed statements from all participants, but Sarah's statement was particularly comprehensive because of her unique perspective and critical role in the defensive success. Her detailed account would become part of the official record and would contribute to lessons learned that might influence defensive procedures at installations throughout the military system. Colonel Williams' final assessment of Sarah's performance included recommendations for recognition and future assignment that reflected the significance of her contributions to base defense and intelligence security. The investigation had revealed not only the sophisticated nature of the threat that had been defeated, but also the exceptional capabilities that had made that defensive success possible. Part 7. The systematic examination of the facility's technical systems revealed the full extent of the attempted intelligence operation and confirmed Sarah's initial assessment of the modification's sophisticated nature. The equipment that had been installed was far more advanced than anything typically encountered in criminal or terrorist operations, suggesting state-level resources and extensive technical expertise among the hostile forces. Sarah's detailed knowledge of the facility's original systems allowed the investigating team to identify modifications that might otherwise have gone undetected for extended periods. Her ability to distinguish between original equipment and unauthorized additions was essential for conducting a comprehensive security assessment and ensuring that all compromised systems were identified and restored. The investigation team's technical analysis confirmed that the modifications would have allowed comprehensive monitoring of all communication traffic, while simultaneously providing capabilities for injecting false information into transmission streams. The potential for operational deception was enormous, with implications that extended far beyond the immediate facility to intelligence operations throughout the region. Rodriguez's tactical analysis of the assault provided insights into the hostile forces training, equipment, and operational procedures that suggested professional military backgrounds rather than criminal or terrorist origins. The coordination, discipline, and technical sophistication demonstrated during the engagement were consistent with special operations, capabilities, and extensive preparation. Martinez's assessment of the defensive response emphasized the critical importance of facility knowledge and technical expertise in defeating sophisticated threats. Sarah's contributions had demonstrated that effective facility defense required more than standard security procedures, and that the full capabilities of all personnel needed to be recognized and utilized. Colonel Williams' investigation expanded beyond the immediate facility to examine potential security vulnerabilities at similar installations throughout the region. Sarah's insights into routine operations and facility management provided valuable information for developing improved security procedures and enhanced defensive capabilities. The arrival of additional technical specialists brought expertise in communication, security, and intelligence operations that complemented Sarah's facility knowledge and the tactical expertise of Martinez's team. The combined analysis revealed patterns of vulnerability and potential exploitation that had implications for facility security throughout the military system. Sarah's participation in the expanded investigation required her to examine her observations of facility operations from a security perspective rather than simply a maintenance viewpoint. Her detailed knowledge of personnel routines, access procedures, and system operations provided insights that were unavailable from any other source. The investigation's findings suggested that the assault on Forward Operating Base Sentinel was part of a coordinated intelligence operation targeting multiple facilities with similar communication capabilities. Sarah's role in defeating the attempt at her facility had potentially prevented similar attacks at other installations and provided crucial intelligence about hostile capabilities and techniques. Rodriguez's recommendations for enhanced defensive procedures included suggestions for better utilization of facility personnel with military backgrounds and improved coordination between security forces and civilian contractors. Sarah's example demonstrated that valuable defensive capabilities might be present in unexpected positions and that emergency situations could reveal underutilized resources. Martinez's formal documentation of the engagement included detailed descriptions of Sarah's technical contributions and tactical performance that would support recommendations for recognition and future assignment. His assessment emphasized that her capabilities were being significantly underutilized in her current position and that her potential contributions to facility security were much greater than her job classification suggested. The technical restoration of the facility's compromised systems required Sarah's detailed knowledge of original specifications and operational procedures. Her understanding of how the systems were supposed to function was essential for identifying and removing all unauthorized modifications while ensuring that legitimate capabilities were preserved and restored. Colonel Williams' preliminary report to higher headquarters included recommendations for comprehensive security reviews at similar facilities throughout the region. Sarah's insights into facility vulnerabilities and defensive capabilities would be valuable for developing improved security procedures and enhanced coordination between different categories of personnel. The investigation's expansion to include examination of potential inside information required detailed analysis of access records, communication logs, and personnel procedures. Sarah's observations of facility routines and personnel patterns provided important context for understanding how detailed intelligence about operations might have been gathered over extended periods. Rodriguez's analysis of the captured equipment revealed communication devices and coordination tools that suggested extensive preparation and professional-level planning. The sophistication of the equipment and the tactical discipline demonstrated during the assault confirmed that the hostile forces had significant resources and advanced capabilities. Martinez's assessment of personnel performance during the engagement highlighted the importance of recognizing the full capabilities of all facility personnel, regardless of their official job classifications. Sarah's example demonstrated that military experience and technical expertise could be present in positions where those capabilities weren't routinely utilized but could become critical during emergency situations. The documentation of lessons learned from the engagement included recommendations for improved training, enhanced coordination procedures, and better utilization of personnel with diverse backgrounds and capabilities. Sarah's performance had demonstrated that effective facility defense required recognition and utilization of all available expertise rather than reliance solely on designated security personnel. Colonel Williams' assessment of the investigation's findings included recognition that the attempted intelligence operation represented a significant threat to military communication capabilities throughout the region. The sophisticated nature of the threat and the comprehensive nature of the attempted exploitation suggested that similar threats might be present at other facilities with comparable capabilities. Sarah's technical expertise in facility systems and her demonstrated tactical capabilities under combat conditions positioned her as a valuable resource for developing countermeasures and enhanced defensive procedures. Her unique combination of technical knowledge and operational experience made her particularly well suited for contributing to facility security improvements. The investigation team's analysis of the hostile forces' intelligence gathering techniques revealed systematic observation and analysis that had been conducted over extended periods. Sarah's insights into facility routines and operational patterns were essential for understanding how such detailed intelligence could have been gathered and what countermeasures might be effective. Rodriguez's recommendations for enhanced personnel utilization included suggestions for identifying and developing the military capabilities of civilian contractors with relevant backgrounds. Sarah's example demonstrated that valuable defensive resources might be present throughout the contractor workforce and that systematic identification and development of those capabilities could significantly enhance facility security. Martinez's evaluation of the tactical lessons learned from the engagement emphasized the importance of adaptability, coordination, and effective utilization of all available resources. The defensive success had depended not only on professional military capabilities but also on technical expertise, facility knowledge, and the ability to integrate different types of capabilities into an effective defensive response. The comprehensive nature of the investigation and the detailed documentation of the engagement's lessons learned would contribute to improved defensive procedures and enhanced security awareness throughout the military facility system. Sarah's contributions to both the defensive success and the subsequent investigation had demonstrated capabilities that extended far beyond her official job classification and suggested potential for much greater contributions to facility security operations. Colonel Williams' final assessment of Sarah's performance included formal recommendations for recognition and future assignment that reflected the significance of her contributions to base defense and intelligence security. The investigation had revealed not only the sophisticated nature of the threat that had been defeated, but also the exceptional capabilities that had made that defensive success possible. Part 8. The formal recognition ceremony that took place 3 days after the engagement brought together personnel from multiple commands to acknowledge the successful defense of Forward Operating Base Sentinel and the broader implications of defeating the attempted intelligence operation. Sarah found herself at the center of attention in a way that felt both gratifying and slightly uncomfortable, given her preference for working quietly behind the scenes. General Robert Hayes, the regional commander responsible for intelligence operations throughout the Mountain Territories, had traveled personally to Forward Operating Base Sentinel to present commendations and assess the implications of the engagement. His presence indicated the serious view that higher headquarters took of the attempted intelligence operation and the successful defensive response. Sarah's citation for exceptional civilian service under combat conditions included specific recognition of her technical expertise, tactical competence, and critical contributions to preventing compromise of intelligence operations throughout the region. The language of the citation reflected not only her performance during the engagement, but also the broader implications of her contributions to military operation security. Martinez's presentation of Sarah's commendation included a detailed account of her performance that emphasized both her technical contributions and her tactical execution under extreme pressure. His description of her adaptability, professionalism, and competence under combat conditions painted a picture of someone whose capabilities extended far beyond her official job classification. Rodriguez's supporting statement for Sarah's recognition focused on her demonstrated tactical abilities and her effective integration into combat operations despite her civilian contractor status. His assessment emphasized that her performance had been indistinguishable from that of trained military personnel, and that her contributions had been essential to mission success. General Hayes' personal remarks during the ceremony acknowledged the broader implications of Sarah's performance for understanding how to effectively utilize the capabilities of civilian contractors with military backgrounds. Her example demonstrated that valuable defensive resources might be present throughout the contractor workforce but not being effectively identified or utilized. The ceremony also included recognition for the entire defensive team, but Sarah's role received special emphasis because of her unique position and the critical nature of her contributions. Her technical expertise in facility systems had been essential for understanding and countering the attempted intelligence operation, while her tactical performance had been crucial for the defensive success. Colonel Williams' presentation of the investigation's findings provided context for understanding the significance of the engagement and the broader threat that had been defeated. The sophisticated nature of the attempted intelligence operation and its potential regional implications made the successful defensive response particularly important for ongoing military operations. Sarah's response to the recognition was characteristically modest and professional, emphasizing her satisfaction at being able to contribute effectively to mission success rather than seeking personal acclaim. Her comments reflected the same quiet professionalism that had characterized her performance throughout the engagement and subsequent investigation. The ceremony's conclusion included announcements about personnel assignments and future planning that would have significant implications for Sarah's career prospects. General Hayes' personal interest in her case and the formal recommendations from Martinez and Rodriguez had created opportunities that would allow better utilization of her technical and tactical capabilities. Following the formal ceremony, Sarah participated in a series of meetings with personnel from different commands who were interested in her potential contributions to facility security and intelligence operations. The meetings represented career opportunities that would allow her to return to meaningful military-related work while utilizing her full range of capabilities. General Hayes' personal conversation with Sarah included questions about her career goals and her interest in positions that would make better use of her technical expertise and demonstrated tactical capabilities. His assessment of her potential contributions suggested opportunities for advancement that would represent significant improvements over her current contractor position. The discussion of future assignments included positions with different commands that would allow Sarah to contribute to facility security, intelligence operations, and personnel development. The range of opportunities reflected the recognition that her unique combination of technical knowledge and operational experience made her valuable for multiple types of military-related positions. Martinez's recommendations for Sarah's future Assignment emphasized positions that would allow her to contribute to training and development programs for facility personnel and civilian contractors. His assessment suggested that her experience and capabilities would be valuable for developing improved coordination between military and civilian personnel. Rodriguez's input regarding Sarah's potential assignments focused on positions that would utilize her tactical capabilities and facility expertise for enhanced security operations. His recommendations emphasized opportunities that would allow her to contribute directly to operational missions rather than being limited to support functions. Colonel Williams' assessment of Sarah's potential contributions to the broader investigation and security improvement efforts suggested positions that would allow her to contribute to policy development and procedure improvement. Her insights into facility vulnerabilities and defensive capabilities would be valuable for developing enhanced security measures throughout the region. The variety of career opportunities being discussed represented a dramatic change from Sarah's current position and reflected the recognition that her capabilities had been significantly underutilized. The formal recognition of her contributions and the documented evidence of her performance created opportunities that would have been impossible before the engagement. Sarah's consideration of the various opportunities required balancing her personal preferences with the potential for contributing to meaningful military-related work. Her primary motivation remained the desire to contribute effectively to missions that mattered, rather than advancing her career for personal benefit. The meetings with different commands revealed the extent to which her performance had created interest throughout the regional military structure. Personnel from intelligence operations, facility security, training commands, and policy development organizations had all expressed interest in her potential contributions to their missions. General Hayes' final conversation with Sarah included formal offers for positions that would represent significant advancement and better utilization of her capabilities. The opportunities ranged from technical positions focused on facility security to operational roles that would utilize her demonstrated tactical competence. Sarah's decision regarding future assignment would have implications not only for her personal career, but also for how civilian contractors with military backgrounds were utilized throughout the military system. Her case had demonstrated that valuable capabilities might be present in unexpected positions, and that better identification and utilization of those capabilities could enhance operational effectiveness. The recognition ceremony and subsequent meetings had transformed Sarah's career prospects in ways that would have been impossible to imagine just days earlier. Her performance during a single engagement had created opportunities that reflected the true value of her technical expertise and operational capabilities. The documentation of her performance and the formal recognition of her contributions would serve as precedents for how civilian contractors with military backgrounds might be better integrated into facility security and operational missions. Her example demonstrated the potential benefits of recognizing and utilizing the full capabilities of all personnel regardless of their official job classifications. General Hayes' commitment to following up on Sarah's career development indicated the serious view that higher headquarters took of maximizing the utilization of available human resources. Her case had illustrated both the presence of underutilized capabilities and the potential benefits of better identifying and developing those capabilities. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.